And introducing first, our first speaker of the evening. As I switch my paper here. She is a passionate food scientist and assistant professor at the Department of Food, Bioprocessing, and Nutrition Sciences at North Carolina State University. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Deepti Salvi.
Thank you, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about food processing. But before talking about food processing, let me talk about what food science is and what food scientists do. So every time I introduce myself and tell anyone that I'm a food scientist, they always confuse me by either being chef or nutritionist. But that's not what food scientists do. What food scientists do is they use principles of chemistry, biology, and engineering to better understand food processes and improve the food products for public. So what is food processing? In food processing, we convert raw materials like fresh produce, grains, legumes, meat, poultry, and egg to a final product which is shelf-stable, more nutritious, and is microbiologically safe for you. Using different processing operations, such as here you can see canning, extrusion, or freezing. So why do we process food? We process food to make food safe. We process food to make it available and affordable, to make it nutritious and convenient, to make it increase shelf life, to tailor for specific needs such as lactose-free or gluten-free, to change flavor and texture of the food, as well as reduce food waste. So how do we process food? Other than biochemical processes like fermentation, mainly we either add heat to the food or cook, or remove heat or freeze the food. And most of you are familiar with food which have added heat into it. For example, pasteurized milk, juices, fried chips, dried fruits and vegetables. So mostly we use heat to process our food. But there is a problem with the heat, excess heat. Heat is an excellent agent to kill pathogens or bad bacteria. But heat also deteriorates nutrients, flavor, as well as quality. So with that in mind, in my lab, we work on agents other than heat to process food, different agents such as very, very high pressure, cold plasma, and UV light. And next few slides, I'll explain you what those agents are. So let's look at high pressure processing. Imagine a dime and on which there are 3 African elephants standing on top of it, weighing 15 tons total. So the dime goes through, what pressure dime goes through, that's how much pressure the food goes through. And don't worry, we don't make elephants to stand on your food. Instead, we use equipment like this, where we transmit the pressure using water. So what that extreme high pressure does to food is it inactivates bacteria as well as some enzymes to make food safe for you while keeping it fresh, because it's not heat treated, just pressure is used. It remains high quality food and has longer shelf life without adding any preservative. So over 30 years of research by scientists worldwide resulted into a lot of products that are currently available in market, which are high pressure processed. For example, you can see the guacamole products, which have longer shelf life without any preservatives. Some juices, which have taste like freshly squeezed juices, but they are cold pasteurized or high pressure processed. Shellfish, in which you can take out the meat, raw meat, without cooking it, but it is safe for you. And some soup products which have no preservative but higher, raw soup product which have no preservative but higher shelf life. And more recently, there is high pressure processed raw milk which is approved in Australia and New Zealand. So other than pressure, we also use cold plasma to process food. So plasma is the fourth state of matter. Solid, liquid, gas, and when you apply more energy to gas, it converts into partially ionized gas, which is called plasma. We all are familiar with plasma. We have seen in northern lights, in lightning, or stars. But the plasma that we use in our lab is at atmospheric pressure and at room temperature. We use that plasma as a water-free, chemical residue-free technology to sanitize food products as well as food contact surfaces. We also are looking into in-package plasma applications for food safety. Next, we also use UV light or ultraviolet radiations of certain wavelength which have bactericidal properties. We use them to make different food products such as juices or eggs microbiologically safe and improve the shelf life while keeping the fresh qualities. And also it has shown to improve some nutrition in some of the products. So imagine a world without food processing. If food processing was not there, there won't be abundant food in supermarkets. There will be food safety risks. The food that you eat will get you sick. It will not be convenient. There won't be enough nutrition, and the food will be expensive. So next time when you are eating your breakfast cereals, which has same crunch every time you eat, or drinking orange juice, which has fresh-like sensory qualities, but it doesn't get you sick, think about food scientists who are working on different processing technologies to make your food safe, nutritious, fresh, convenient, and high quality. Thank you.
Some great stuff about processing food. When I went to Del Taco in LA over the summer, I asked them for free shavacado, and they had no idea what I was talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your questions in. Raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question about food processing, and I will bring the mic to you. Also, and I see you right there, so I'm not going to forget about you. Everyone who asks a question tonight will receive a free vial of RTP180 Boxyard branded sunblock. Ooh. And if you can see my arms, you'll know I need it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first question of the evening coming from right back here.
Are there labeling rules for the high pressure processing, or how can you know if that was done that way or some other way?
Yeah, so usually when you see these products in the market, you don't have to mention how they were processed. But if you look carefully at the back of the label, it will say high pressure processed, or it will say never heat treated, something like that. So there is no requirement to label it.
It's all a mystery. All right, next question coming from over here.
Hello. Thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation. I hate to ask this, but it seems like every diet and every new thing is saying avoid food processing at all costs. And I didn't see anything compelling to me of why food processing helps us rather than potentially hurts us with all the things that are added to food. I know that you didn't go into additives, but can you talk a little bit about why food processing, because they say food can be more nutritious without it, and yet one of your slides mentioned nutrition, so I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that is a very important question, because a lot of people will say food processing is bad, and I'm tired of listening to that. But, let me tell you, we need to process food to increase the digestibility. We process all the food. Meat, we cannot eat raw. We need to cook it. So even when you cook it, it's processing, right? Also, when I talk about nutrition, one thing is some of the nutrients become more bioavailable when you cook. And the way you cook also affects, for example, that high pressure processed products, they have high pressure process guacamole has more bioavailability of certain nutrients. So, things like that improve. Other thing is when I talk about processing and like your milk added vitamin D, so some of these things are taken care while processing. Long time back, we used to have a lot of nutrient deficiency related diseases. After food processing, those diseases are reduced because most of the micronutrients or the nutrients are added in the food. When people say food processing is bad, it's probably not what they're trying to say. They're trying to say you need to look at the ingredient list and what has been added in it. And that's where my lab works in minimal processing, where we don't have to add any preservatives or anything else that is bad for you. So I think people get always confused with processing versus what's in that food. But processing is important. We cannot eat unprocessed food.
Excellent answer. Next question coming from right back here.
I cannot hear it. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I do not have a lot of experience in membrane processing, but it is one of the non-thermal process where you can use it for separation of some of the things. But I'm not an expert in that area. Thank you.
All right, we have one more question over here on the right as I attempt to figure out how technology works. I'm running. All right, had a question here.
Hey, thanks so much for a great talk. So I've worked in microbiology for a while, and every once in a while you run into bugs that are really resistant to certain methods of sterilization, like we have bleach resistant and ethanol resistant. Are there bugs that are particularly resistant to high pressure?
Yeah, so with the high pressure, you can kill vegetative bacteria, but spores, it's difficult to kill spores. So in case if you want to use high pressure to sterilize something, you need to use heat along with that, but lower amount of heat. So spores is something that is very difficult to kill using high pressure processing, but vegetative bacteria can be. And also some bacteria can also survive. So you have some probiotic, you can choose the processing conditions such that you don't kill the probiotic bacteria, something like that. So you have to tune the process depending on the bacteria, but one of the limitation is spores cannot be inactivated just with high pressure.
Much like Egon Spengler, I collect mold, spores, and fungus. All right, last question coming from right back here.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Could you recommend a good resource that will put together the information on right food processing for different types? So for example, if you toast soybeans, you increase bioavailability of the protein.
I can't really hear. Oh, okay. So I think there is a lot of literature available on different processing methods and bioavailability. For example, if you eat carrot raw versus slightly steamed, you get more bioavailability of the nutrients, in it. So there is literature, but that I might have to look for some review articles or something where you can find all this information together. But there is literature available on that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Dr. Deepti Salvi.